Hari-hari yang berhormat, we shall continue with the debate on the budget speech. I shall now call upon Honourable Member for Padungan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to participate in the debate on the budget 2025. Mr. Speaker, though on the face of it, the budget 2025 presented by the Premier on Monday seems to be a healthy and seems to be surplus in figure. But what is lurking behind that glossy surface or front of that budget is what worries me, and in particular the alternative funding scheme of things that was mentioned several times in the budget speech of Yang Amat Berhormat Premier, but not in the government's budget. Does not appear in the government's budget document. This alternative funding is an amount to be spent by the government in addition to the development expenditure and the operating expenditure approved in the House on the budget 2025. This inside this book, but there is no mention inside this book budget document. There is no amount of alternative funding. The budget 2025, the state's operating expenditure is estimated at 4.9 billion, and the development expenditure is estimated at 10.9 billion. In addition to this development expenditure of 10.9 billion approved in the House in this sitting, there's another huge item in the name of alternative funding that the government will spend in year 2025, but not out of the development expenditure here. Now the question is, from where is the source of fund of this alternative funding? The state government should tell us and should be held accountable to that. Mr. Speaker, I'll just list down for the benefit of the House and for the record here the amount of what the Premier mentioned, alternative funding, in his budget speech on Monday. All right, the amounts are here as follows: 742 million for regional development agencies to connect rural areas to economic centers via projects for roads, electricity and water access. 4 billion for road projects like Sarawak Coastal Road, Second Trunk Road, etc. 452 million for upgrading of water treatment plants. 204 million for upgrading and replacement of water pipes. 170 million for rural electrification projects. 1.42 billion for the Autonomous Rapid Transit ART program. And 470 million for increasing rural internet access. In total, under this scheme of alternative funding, which is in addition to the development expenditure, there is a total of 7,458 million, 7,458 million additional to the development expenditure. This alternative funding scheme not only happens in 2025, but the scheme started in 2023 in a massive way. Before that, there's some alternative funding scheme, but in a much lesser sum. In 2023, the alternative funding, they call it initiative or scheme, which is in addition to the development expenditure approved in this House, as follow. It was mentioned in the winding up speech of the Yang Amat Berhormat Timbalan Premier, Minister for Finance too. Alternative funding initiative in 2023, amount spent so far is a total of 3.2 billion has been spent on these projects, roads and bridges. 2.3 billion and 1.4 billion have been spent on water supply and electricity project respectively. 213 million and 113 million have been expended by SDEC and SMA respectively on digitalization project. In total, in year 2023, under this alternative funding initiative or scheme, the government spent, in addition to development expenditure approved in this House, a total sum of 7,526 million, 7.5 billion. And this happened also this year. In this year, 2024, the alternative funding initiative for 2024, approximately 4 billion for the second trunk road and coastal road network. Additional 156 million was under the development expenditure for, water supply project. But the amount spent in 2024 under this scheme of alternative funding is way above the development expenditure, which is 552 million. And for electrification projects under alternative funding scheme is 1,600 million, which is 1.6 billion. And for ART project in 2024, it is a total of 7,052 million, which is 7 billion. All in all, Mr. Speaker, in just 3 years, the government spending over and above the ordinary expenditure approved by this House comes out to a total shocking amount of 21 billion. That is what we call under, what the Yang Amat Berhormat, the Premier, mentioned under the alternative funding initiative. If one were to take this spending on alternative funding into consideration, the annual spending of the state government is way above the revenue. At least for just these 3 years, it will be above the revenue by 20 billion. All right, where did the government get this fund for this alternative funding? Obviously, it's from loans by the government. Otherwise, if it is from the consolidated fund, it has to be approved by this House in the budget. This 21 billion over the last 3 years are from other sources. That's why it was called alternative funding initiative. And that what other sources is from loan. And we can see from this statement of account, as at 31st December 2023, a statement of account on the trust fund of government contribution towards approved agencies trust fund. All right, in the attachment here, it lists down some of the government's loans where the government is paying up to today. And I will share with you and the House what are these loans. The list starts from a loan through Infra Venture Sdn Bhd. All right, this is a loan of, under this company, there's a loan of 5 billion through DBOS, another 4 billion through DBOS, 9 billion altogether. Another loan through Infra SAR, Kedua, Sdn Bhd. Just now the one is Infra SAR Venture Sdn Bhd. Now it's Infrasa Dua Sdn Bhd. A total of 4.7 billion with the boss. The third one is loan through Equisa. Let's see, Equisa Sdn Bhd. 800 million guarantee and secure note. But this amount is due by, these notes will be due in 2026. All right, number 4, the third one is loans through Equisa Capital Sdn Bhd, which is by way of a Sukuk Murabaha program of 1.5 billion. And the last one, it should be the most recent one, is by InfraCap Resources Sdn Bhd through the issuance of Sukuk bond, Sukuk Murabaha program bond of up to 15 billion. All right, taking away that 800 million notes, okay, bonds issued by Equisa, there's a total approximately 30 billion loan taken out by government, and I believe a large part of it is for the carry out of this what it was termed alternative funding scheme. This alternative funding scheme is actually spending future money, and the amount is really scary. At this rate, within these 3 to 5 years, the government's debt has now exceeded the reserves of the state built out over decades under the late Tai and the late Tok Nan. I call on the government to be more prudent in spending the people's money and to be more accountable to the House and stop such alternative funding scheme which circumvent the financial process of the budgets in this House. The next issue which I would like to touch on would be, let me see. Yeah. But despite spending so much of the people's money, yet Sarawak's median household income is a lot lesser than the median household income at national level. Sarawak household median household income, as announced by the Premier a week ago, was as at year 2022 was 4,978, whereas at the same time the national median household income was 6,338. 6,338. Mr. Speaker, let me share with you an answer that I've obtained from the administration on the labour share of GDP, Sarawak State GDP. Sarawak's workers' compensation, employees' compensation as a proportion of the GDP. Nationally, we are quite low also. Nationally, the compensation of employees in relation to the nation's GDP was about 33%, i.e. all the total wages of employees of the country add up together is only 33% of the nation's GDP, whereas employees constitute about 2/3 of the nation's population. But the figure is even lower in Sarawak. So in Sarawak, the workers' compensation in relation to Sarawak's GDP is only 16%. 16%. That means that...
Muhammad,
yes.
all these figures that you saying, the data...
Okay, I mean to verify it.
So, yeah, no. You just mentioned the sources if possible, yeah, so that it can be referred to later on.
Pardon?
It can be referred to later on by whoever wants to...
Yeah, it's from the
answer
official
that.
answer from Premier Office. last sitting, I asked the question, I got the answer. 16%. That means that all the Sarawak workers, their total wages add up together is only 16%, constitute only 16% of Sarawak's GDP. And what it translates in layman's terms is that the Sarawak's employees are way underpaid. As such, I welcome some of the initiative announced by Yang Amat Berhormat, the Premier, increase giving some handout to the to some poorer family. But I think more should be done. More should be done, especially given that we have so much resources. What I propose is that for all civil servants, not only state civil servants, but federal agencies, federal ministries, civil servants serving in Sarawak, the teachers, the nurses, the doctors serving in Sarawak, the state government has the ability to top up by 10% of their salary. I've checked with the figure. That will be roughly 1 billion to the state government. Top up by 10% of their salary. That will be about 10%. 10% will be about 1 billion. Instead of spending so much, 21 billion on the alternative funding on building some roads, I will prefer, and I will suggest that the 1 billion annually be allocated to civil servants serving in Sarawak. Do you agree? You don't agree? That is to increase the household income of Sarawakians. Mr. Speaker. Please. All right, Mr. Speaker, I'll move on to another topic, which I will call on. The total, I give you the figures here. All right. I just got back from Parliament. I got the figure on emolument.
Are you raising a point of order? A point of order.
Huh? What is it?
Point of order.
Clarification, I don't give.
Okay. Move on.
Too bad. Don't waste my time. Injury time, Mr. Speaker. All right, I just got back from Parliament. All right, I got the federal budget there. Okay, the total emolument of the federal government for 2025 is estimated at 105 billion. All right, 105 billion for the whole country. Sarawak, roughly 10%. Okay, so about 10% serving in Sarawak. So a top up of 10% of their salary will only cost the state government 1 billion. 1 billion. The state government is so rich. So that's my suggestion. I hope it can be taken into consideration. The other, I'll move on to another topic, which I think the government should consider because it will save the government money. Mr. Speaker, I know Yang Amat Berhormat, the Premier, is minded to proceed with the ART project by using hydrogen fuel bus. But I just come across an article which is a study of how many hydrogen transit trial failures are enough. This is that.
Verify your sources, the truth about it.
It has not come into force yet. All right, the source is cleantechnica.com, which is one of the top website in respect of clean energy in US. Okay, I just share with you. And with the government servants behind. Alright, in Iceland, 2001 and 2005, Iceland tried hydrogen bus failed, they dropped out. 2004, Perth tried hydrogen bus. It was abandoned, switched to electricity bus. The third one, Whistler, Vancouver City City Authority tried 2010, hydrogen bus, they abandoned it in 2014. And 2010, Sao Paulo, Brazil, tried out hydrogen bus, it failed, abandoned. And in 2014, San Remo, Italy, also tried, failed. 2014, and the same year, Flanders, Belgium, picked out 5 buses, hydrogen bus, also failed. Hamburg,
Please, one up.
Hamburg, Germany, tried it out in 2012 and 2019, they abandoned it. And 2019, Pau in France tried out. It
Make your
cost,
point.
found out that it cost them 6 times more
Yes,
costly.
your last point. Time's up.
That's not that guy disturbed.
Just take.
And it was abandoned. And 2021, whilst Baden, Germany,
Close,
trial
please.
also failure.
Close your speech.
Okay, Mr. Speaker, given that there are so many trials of hydrogen bus to be used as a transit bus, and yet they fail. All right, I will urge the state government to reconsider using hydrogen transit bus as the ART bus, because
thank
it's
you.
going to cost more. It's going to be, of course, if the government is minded, they want to spend a lot of money, it will work. But whether the cost-benefit analysis justify that
Make your
amount
point. Thank you.
of expenditure.
Thank you. You have made a point. Next one, Yang Berhormat Pending, please.
Sambong, huh? Don Speaker, thank you for allowing me to participate in the Supply Bill 2025. Don Speaker, it's time that the Ministry for Public Health, Housing and Local Government and the Kuching City South to take immediate steps to adjust and lower the current assessment rate imposed on residency Prima Bintawai consisting of 1320 units. This is the second time I bring out this issue in this August House, as nothing was done after I first brought up in year 2022. The Ministry and the Council had defended that the high rate by stating that the assessment rate was rightfully determined. The residents are not bothered with whatever method or excuse the Ministry and Council used to come up with the calculation. What they want is that the state government to be considerate of their hardship, because Prima Bintawai is an affordable housing scheme developed by the government to cater the needs of the lower income group. The assessment rate must be formulated fairly so that these residents can afford to pay it. The high assessment rates include Type A 463.80, Type B 485 and Type C 540 ringgit and 60 cents a year. These rates are similar to the rates charged on private development condominiums in Kuching. Please, I urge the Ministry of Public Health, Housing and Local Government, as well as MBKS, to deal with this issue exclusively. Do not compare the special government housing scheme with those of private developments. It is inappropriate to compare an apple with an orange. Tuan Speaker, this Prima Bintawai assessment rate were not set in stone. We know all policies of the government are man-made. If we look back to year 2006, before the Sarawak state election, before I won and I entered this house, the Land and Survey Department refused to lower the land premium renewal rate, which was exorbitantly high. But after DAP won 6-6, suddenly the land renewal premium reduced to 1,000 for terrace house, 3,000 for semi-detached house, and 6,000 for bungalow. Hence, if the land renewal premium could be lowered, the assessment rate for Prima Bintawai Riverfront could also be lowered. It is a matter of whether the state government is willing or not. Please do not ignore the people's plea. Tuan Speaker, Several families who occupied 2 parcels of state land within my Penting constituency, known as Lot 11509, 11510, both of Section 64, Kuching Townland District, were given notices by the Land Survey Department, Kuching Branch, on 3rd September 2024 to quit. They were told to vacate their homes within 30 days for the ART development project. Most of these residents have stayed there for more than 40 years. 4 families, which are either hardcore poor or B40 families, have reached out to me, and I had, on their behalf, written to the Land Survey Department, HQ, requesting for ex gratia compensation to them and an extension of time to move out. I'm glad and I'm thankful to Land Survey Director Office, which has served them with a second letter 2 days ago, agreeing to give them extension of time to move out. However, the letter did not mention anything about the ex gratia payment. These families require some financial assistance from the state government to assist them to relocate. Hence, I appeal to the state government and Land Survey Department to show some compassion to the families by providing them with ex gratia compensation as what was done to the others who stay in state lands before. Of course, the best solution is allotting the affected families with residential plots at Stumping Resettlement Scheme, given that there are still unoccupied plots available. The residents are willing to give their full cooperation to move out, but they need the compensation to enable them to do so. I hope the Land Survey Department could give these affected families an official letter stating the figure of the ex gratia before 31st December this year. Tuan Speaker, since China harsh crackdown on cryptocurrency, crypto mining and related businesses in 2021, due to concern over financial crimes, Sarawak has emerged as an attractive destination for Bitcoin miners. This shift has positioned the state as a key player in the global crypto mining industry. As we are aware, numerous crypto mining companies have now established operations in Sarawak, with one of the biggest sites owned by Big U in Tanjung Manis. Another notable player is SMICS, a subsidiary of Singapore Exchange-listed company, SMI Vantage Limited, which has partnered with the state-owned Sovereign System Technique Sarawak. This joint venture was formed between Sarawak State Government-owned Permodalan Asar Sdn Bhd and Sovereign Segalang Sdn Bhd. It is clear, Tuan Speaker, the state government has a direct involvement in Bitcoin mining operations. Yet, until now, there has been no official announcement or statement from the Sarawak government regarding any policies or regulation governing cryptocurrency mining. The lack of transparency raises serious questions about how well this fast-growing industry is being monitored and managed. There are no clear specific state laws to regulate these crypto miners. Tuan Speaker, hence I urge the Right Honourable Premier to clarify in his widening speech whether these crypto miners are operating legally or illegally in Sarawak. Sarawakians are concerned about the government's silence on these operations. Are these companies following proper legal guidelines, or are they simply exploiting our cheap electricity rates for their own gain? Furthermore, the Bitcoin prices now skyrocketing to, now I check what is the current market, it shoot up to 89,000 a few days ago after Donald Trump won the presidency. As of now, the Bitcoin prices had hit 87,000 US dollar. So, is our state truly benefiting from this boom, or are we being taken for a ride by these Bitcoin miners? Sarawak's resources, particularly our affordable energy, should not be exploited without clear regulations that ensure the interests of the state and Sarawakians are being protected. Tuan Speaker, it is well understood that crypto mining activities require vast amount of electricity and generate significant heat. With Sarawak Energy offering the lowest electricity tariff rates in the region, it is no surprise that these crypto miners are drawn to our state. However, the critical question is the supply of this electricity to this miner being used legally? Or are we witnessing potential abuse in electricity consumption? In May this year, it was reported that Sarawak Energy loses 4 million per month due to illegal mining operations. This highlights the urgent need for clear regulation and strict oversight of the crypto mining industry. Without proper regulation, we risk not only financial losses, but also jeopardizing the integrity of our energy resources. The state government must step in to ensure that these operations are conducted legally, transparently, and in a way that benefits Sarawak as a whole. Tuan Speaker, the Sarawak government should have known that these miners are taking advantage of our cheap energy. In light of this, I believe it is high time for the government to capitalize on the situation by raising electricity rates for these miners. By doing so, the increased revenue could instead be used to lower the domestic tariff, benefiting on Sarawakian directly. Recently, we have seen growing public frustration over higher electricity bills following the installation of smart meters. Many Sarawakians are now paying significantly significantly more for their electricity, and this issue needs to be addressed. Priority must be given to our own people. SESCO should carefully reconsider its policy to ensure that Sarawakians are not bearing the brunt of this cost, while foreign companies reap the rewards of our low electricity rates. Let us not forget these cryptocurrency miners earn lucrative profits from mining. Tuan Speaker, I wish to highlight that since 2021, there has been no update on the audited account of Sovereign System Teknik Sarawak Sdn Bhd, which is a joint venture between Permodalan Asar and Sovereign Stirring Sarawak Sdn Bhd. For the financial year 2021, this company reported losses. This is troubling. How can a government-owned joint venture fail to submit its proper audited account on time? It is even more surprising that SMI Vantage, a listed company, decided to partner with Sovereign System Teknik, a company that is operating at a loss. This raises questions about the financial health of this partnership and why the Sarawak government is involved with a company in such a situation. Tuan Speaker, a couple of weeks ago, Sarawak Metro awarded 122 million contract to a joint venture company comprising SKS Coach Builders Sdn Bhd and Sun Credit Sdn Bhd for the supply of 55 units of hydrogen-powered feeder buses. This means each hydrogen bus costs 2.2 million. What a great deal. SKS Coach Builders is a West Malaysia company, has teamed up with Sun Credit Sdn Bhd, a local company, to meet the tender requirements set by Sarawak Metro. What truly shocking is that this 122 million contract could be awarded to Sun Credit Company Sdn Bhd, a company whose main business is general trading and has a paid-up capital of only 100 ringgit, 100 ringgit saja. Can you imagine how a company valued at just $100 managed to secure a contract worth 122 million from Sarawak Metro? Tuan Speaker, after conducting a company search on both SKS Coach Builder and Sun Credit, I found that for the past 3 years, past 3 financial years, that is 2020, 2021, and 2022, both companies reported negative profits. For SKS Coach Builder, they had lost after tax of 4.55 million in 2020, and then 4.8 million in 2021, and a bigger loss of 6.63 million in 2022. As for Sun Credit, the losses was 3.916 million in 2020, 2.88 million in 2021, and 3.2 million in 2022. I have gone through the tender conditions published by Sarawak Metro, and in paragraph 4G, it clearly states average net profit for the last 3 financial years, 2020, 2021, and 2022, must be positive. And for a joint venture, a minimum of 2 partners, including the lead partners, must show positive net profit. This is stated in the Sarawak Metro tender documents. Conditions. Mr. Speaker, it is obvious these two companies failed to meet the requirements stated in paragraph 4G of the tender conditions. My question is, how then did the tender panel board approve and award a contract worth hundreds of millions for hydrogen buses to these companies that are financially struggling? This raises serious concern about the competency of Sarawak Metro's tender evaluation panel. Something is very wrong here. Moreover, under paragraph 4H of the tender condition, it states that the tender shall have at least one working hydrogen bus prototype and a working hydrogen bus developed and or manufacture or supply so within the year 2016 to 2023. Sun Credit Sdn Bhd, being a general trading company, does not meet this requirement. As for SKS Coach Builder, their company profile shows they only deal with electric and conventional buses. So how did they qualify under paragraph 4H, may I ask? The entire process seems deeply flawed and raises serious doubt about transparency and accountability of Sarawak Metro. In any government tender process, if a bidder fails to meet the condition outlined in the tender documents, their bid should be rejected outright. What is strange here is that despite these two companies failed to meet the requirement, they were still able to be awarded with the contract by Sarawak Metro of 122 million. Any reasonable person would question the integrity of this tender process. I urge MACC to act swiftly and launch a thorough investigation into this case, along with all other contracts awarded by Sarawak Metros, to uncover any misconduct or corruption. Public funds are involved here, and MACC has the authority to investigate without needing the official report. This 122 million hydrogen bus contract and all other contracts awarded by Sarawak Metro must be scrutinized. Tuan Speaker, if Sarawak government truly uphold good governance and transparency, it must intervene to correct the wrong of Sarawak Metro. The state government should cancel this contract immediately and initiate a new tender process, especially since it was reported that 6 other companies participated in the bidding. Otherwise, it may appear that the state government is endorsing this joint venture as a way to profit for the purchase of the 55 units hydrogen buses. Why hasn't the State Integrity and Ombudsman Unit initiated an investigation into this case? Is the union aware of the situation, or have they been kept in the dark as well? Or perhaps union knows what's happening but is unable to act due to interference from some powerful individuals? These are the questions Sarawakian deserve an answer. Let me bring to the attention of this August House some information about Sun Credit Sdn Bhd. The company search reveals that one of the shareholders and directors happened to be the chairman of Cebu Rural District Council and the chairman of PRS Tudong Division. This raises the question, was this contract awarded based on political connection? I know it seems that holding the chairman post in SRDC and PRS can lead to highly favorable counter deal. Tuan Speaker, my next issue, last one. Many customers in Kuching, Cebu and Limbang are still struggling to exchange their yellow gas cylinders for the Petrol's red one, despite the state government assurance given last year that the swap will be completed within 6 months. Till today, Sarawak government has taken a lackadaisical attitude towards solving this issue. There seems to be no effort from the state government to direct Petros to deal this matter with urgency. Petros dealer continues to claim that there are not enough tongs available for the exchange. Is Petros the sole gas aggregator, only a title in name? How can there be insufficient red tongs available for the consumer to do the exchange? Mr. Speaker, allow me to guide this House through the difficulty consumers face in trying to exchange a yellow gas cylinder. On 30th October, a consumer from Tabuan Dayak reached out to me for assistance in exchanging his yellow gas cylinder. I immediately called the Petros hotline 1300-882122 at 10:39 a.m. The operator provided me with several contact numbers for Petros dealer, whom under Petros record was supposedly servicing the Tabuan Dayak area. First, I called Petros LPG BCS Aviation Sdn Bhd 3 times at 10:44, 10:46 and 10:49 a.m. but no one picked up the calls. So I tried again by making WhatsApp call to the same number at 11 a.m. This time an operator answered my call but informed that Tabuan Dayak is not within their service area. So she directed me to contact Petros LPG Minsun is inset. Petros LPG Minsun. As for Petros LPG Jam Belas and Jam Berhad, I made a call at 10:45 and the operator who answered immediately said they do not service Tabon Dayak area, but they only serve Tabon Jaya. After failing to get any positive response from the two numbers given by Petros, I called Petros hotline again at 10:50 to inform the operator that the two numbers given by him were unhelpful at all. This time, the operator requested me to hold the line while he searched for another numbers to be given to me. For that call, I was given another two numbers. One for Petros LPG Metro Senjam Berhad and another one is Petros LPG Pawada General Trading. When I called Petros LPG Metro, the female operator initially answered, but as soon as she realized it was me, Violet Yong, inquiring about the gas cylinder exchange, suddenly the call was cut off. As for Petros LPG Pawada, no one answered the call. At that point, I redialed Petros LPG Minsun number. Once again, nobody picked up the call. A minute later, Petros LPG Minsun sent a WhatsApp message asking me to fill in a yellow cylinder swap form. I assisted the customer from Tabon Dayak to fill up the form and submitted. After submission, I received a message stating, once Petros has allocated us the cylinders, we will contact you for the exchange. At the moment, we have numerous customers in our waiting list. Until that moment, I refused to give out and sent a message to Pawada at 11:12 a.m. asking if Tabon Dayak is within their service area. In response, I was given yet another number with the message, boleh try contact nombor talk, suggesting I try contacting that number instead. Now, having heard all this, what do you think? Isn't this frustrating and exasperating? So I want to tell the Minister of Utility and Telecommunication, he is out of touch from the ground. I hope that with me stating all in detail how tedious to get a yellow tong exchange, he can direct Petros to do it immediately. I believe Petros doesn't tell the whole picture to the minister. That's why I hope that this issue can be solved. Thank you. With that, I conclude.
Yang Muhammad berkelalan, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to address this august House today to debate the Supply Bill 2025 presented by the Right Honourable Premier. At the outset, let me congratulate the Premier and his officers for formulating this expansionary budget, which is the largest budget in Sarawak history. There are several matters I wish to highlight within some of the 8 thrusts and the various initiatives of the budget presented. First, on forest carbon activity. Mr. Speaker, it is commendable that the government has legislated a framework in place to regulate forest carbon project and trading activities. On this matter, I have been made to understand that carbon trading schemes often do not protect the forests, and some have failed to improve the lives of the people who live there, who often do not receive any of the revenue generated from such schemes. I hope that the government will take the necessary steps to ensure that we do not have the negative outcomes which may arise from carbon trading schemes. Mr. Speaker, I understand that some companies and organizations are keen to apply for forested areas in Sarawak to be licensed to them to carbon trading scheme. In this regard, I wish to stress that such schemes should be held for the people, perhaps by way of trust. The individuals or groups involved must be carefully screened to ensure that there are people with integrity who will always act in the interest of the community. On forest landscape reforestation program, Mr. Speaker, the tree planting initiative of the federal government and the Sarawak government must be applauded, as the forest cover our country had been severely depleted over the past few decades from logging activities. However, tree planting must be carried out carefully, as research has shown that indiscriminate planting of trees, especially non-native trees, in non-forest areas can have negative effects on the landscape and ecosystem. The Honourable Premier informed us that Sarawak's target set in 2021 of planting 35 billion trees by 2025 had been exceeded in 2024. I view this with some concern, Mr. Speaker. What seedlings were planted and where were they sourced? Are they seedlings of our indigenous trees? Were the plantings done with homogeneous seedling or mixed seedlings native to the particular area? What sort of areas were the replanting carried out on? Mr. Speaker, there are many lessons to learn on replanting of forests, and I encourage the authorities concerned to study what has been done in other countries so that we do not make the same mistake in our well-intentioned efforts to restore our forests. It is best that we do it right the first time around. On totally protected area. Mr. Speaker, I also note the government's plan to gazette an area of 1 million hectares as totally protected areas by 2025, and I'm aware that Ulutusan in my constituency is a possible area to be gazetted as such. I believe the people have no objection to the objectives of the initiative if they were duly consulted and properly informed. But they object to the drawing of the boundaries that are too close to the edges of their villages, thus denying them access to the village forest for their basic needs. Those of us who live in towns and cities may not understand the way of life of village dwellers who depend on the forest for many things. So, Mr. Speaker, and the proposal must take into consideration the livelihood of the people who rely on the forest, and if need be, they must be allowed to retain certain rights like hunting, gathering of jungle produce, taking timber for domestic use, fishing in the rivers, etc. Full consultation with the villagers must be undertaken to hear their concern before any decisions are taken and boundaries drawn. I urge that exemption be made for the villagers so that their livelihood is not disrupted or deprived as a consequence of the actions of the government, although done with good intention. On rehabilitation of rivers, Mr. Speaker, the government has shown that it is taking very seriously the importance of preserving our forests and replanting degraded areas. This is very prudent, especially in view of climate change and its sometimes catastrophic effect in various parts of the world. However, our efforts in protecting the environment must also include the protection and rehabilitation of our rivers. Rivers are the lifeline of our planet, providing precious water and food for humans, animals, plants, and trees. Civilizations were born on river banks, and economies were driven by river transport. Sadly, our rivers have suffered over the years from pollution, siltation, and erosion caused by human activities. Some rivers are so badly affected that they can be classified as very sick or even dead. There is an urgent need for us to rescue those of our rivers that need help. Mr. Speaker, the Honourable Premier talked about port development and the construction of wharfs and jetties. The budget allocates 137 million ringgit for environment, which includes urban drainage and flood mitigation, river and coastal engineering, forestry research and development, forestry management, as well as environmental sustainability, but river rescue was not given any focus. I urge the government to provide a specific allocation for the rehabilitation of our rivers. Mr. Speaker, the last sitting of this August House, I had brought up the issue of the need to clean up our sick rivers, and I wish to reiterate my call for action to be taken. There are many examples of rivers that have been restored to health in other countries, and we can learn from those examples. In Seoul, Korea, the Chungji-chun River in the Central Business District was recovered and restored. In the Netherlands, the Domel River, which suffered from pollution, habitat degradation, and flooding exacerbated by urbanization and agricultural practices, has been transformed into a resilient and thriving ecosystem. The ongoing restoration of the Kam River in India is also worth studying to learn how we can save our rivers from the devastating effects of human activities. In Sarawak, Mr. Speaker, the majority of our rivers need rehabilitation, and we need to have a budget for this. Mr. Speaker, I would say that providing specific attention to our rivers is a natural and necessary progression from protection of our forests, as there has not been any parallel efforts which would have been ideal. This is even more crucial and timely given that we have just passed the Natural Resources and Environment Bill 2024. Our rivers are an integral and crucial part of our natural resources and environment and deserve to be protected and restored. In addition, educational programs are vital so that future generation, the future generation, as well as the present one, are aware of the importance of keeping our rivers clean and healthy. On agriculture, transforming strategies and food security. Mr. Speaker, I am glad that the government is taking steps to transform the agricultural sector, as I have brought up this matter many times over the years, especially food security. The need for self-sufficiency was brought home to us during the COVID years, when many countries experienced shortage of staple items. For us, rice is an important food source, and I know the government's paddy infrastructure initiative valued at 1 billion ringgit. However, I'm disappointed that my area, Baklaran, and the greater area of Lawas is not included in the focus planting areas. I hope the government will remember Baklaran in the next budget, Mr. Speaker. Long Smado in Baklaran is one of the most fertile areas in Sarawak. The villages there produce the much sought after Adan rice, and a group of farmers have successfully increased their yield using the system of rice intensification, or SRI. I request that Baklaran be included in the focus planting area, and that the government provide subsidies, high-yielding species, improve planting methods, and marketing channel to assist them. In addition, the government should encourage organic farming methods to make the produce by rural farmers more attractive, not only to the local market, but more so for international markets, as demand for organic food is continuing to increase. In this regard, Mr. Speaker, I'm asking the government to organize training and workshop in my constituency, especially the highlands, where the people are still using traditional methods of farming, as this is where the Adan rice is known to grow well. There also needs to be programs in place to monitor and audit these farmers and their produce to maintain the organic quality. Mr. Speaker, as for the cattle breeding program, there is an allocation of 10.6 million to establish cattle breeding farm in Kuching, Siaran, and Petang. Again, I'm disappointed that Lawas is not included, as it has been identified as a buffalo producing district together with Limbang. In 2018, when the level of beef production sufficiency was just at 5%, the Honorable Assistant Minister of Agriculture announced that Sarawak aimed to produce 30% of its beef supply to meet local demand in the state by 2030. The Premier informed this Dewan that the self-sufficiency level is now at just 13%. This level of growth from 5% to 13% in 8 years is rather low and needs to be higher if we are to reach 30% 6 years from now. Mr. Speaker, in March this year, the Honorable Deputy Minister of Food, Industry, Commodities and Regional Development said the district of Limbang, Lawas and Temborong in Brunei Darussalam will become the hub of food production based on agriculture and animal husbandry as a result of the cooperation between Sarawak and Brunei. In 2021, the Premier announced that the Sarawak government is planning to unlock the economic potential in the northern part of Sarawak under the post-COVID-19 Development Strategy 2030, PCDS 2030, in efforts to transform the agriculture sector using precision farming. With our fertile land and cooler climate, northern Sarawak is ideal for agriculture and animal husbandry. I therefore urge the government to include Lawas, particularly my constituency of Baklaran, in the cattle breeding program, as we have the land and the people to carry out these activities. On telecommunication, Mr. Speaker, I was pleasantly surprised to discover a few weeks ago that the telecommunication towers in the rural part of my area are now operational. I wish to thank the government for finally providing this vital service to the remote northern Sarawak areas. On Sarawak Sabah Link Road, SSLR, Mr. Speaker, the Federal Deputy Works now announced a few days ago that the SSLR Phase 1 is 40% complete and is expected to complete in November 2026. He also stated that Phase 2 is to go ahead and is expected to take 5 years. I understand the tenders have been sent out and contractors identified. The building of road connection in northern Sarawak has been my heart's desire for a very long time, and I'm thankful that it is becoming a reality. At last, the people in my area will be connected by proper roads. This will be the start of a positive transformation for them, and the potential of economic growth will be considerable, especially in the connection to the new Indonesian capital in Nusantara. Mr. Speaker, however, I wish to ask that the authorities keep a strict monitoring and audit program of the construction works so that the appointed contractors adhere to the requirements on high construction standard and particularly on safety. This will be the first road into the interior after a long wait by the villagers, and it must be properly built to prevent road collapses of the kind that have been happening periodically in Sarawak, the latest being the road collapse in Kapit 3 months ago. Mr. Speaker, the construction of Pan-Borneo Highway and the SSLR Phase 1 has provided invaluable learning experiences, and I'm sure that the government is observing closely how these roads are being built to prepare for improved implementation of SSR Phase 2. Strict supervision of Phase 2 is all the more necessary because this phase is getting into more difficult terrain, which is hilly and steep in parts. Solid foundation and reinforcement must be in place, and any compromise in materials, processes, and construction must be called out and penalized. I hope all parties concerned will heed my call for solidly built safe roads for the people of Northern Sarawak. Mr. Speaker, on the same matter, I call upon the people of the area to cooperate with the authorities and companies who are appointed to build the roads and not to block the construction. Any claims or dispute that cannot be mutually settled, please refer them to the court for their adjudication. This project will bring multiple benefit to the community as a whole, and any individuals who have any complaints should approach the authorities for discussion and resolution. I will be happy to help in any way I can in such instances. Boosting tourism sector. Mr. Speaker, the completion of SSLR Phase 1 and 2 will bring an influx of tourists into the highlands of Long Semado and Baklaran. There is a huge potential for tourism to boom, and I hope that the authorities will focus on helping the people to prepare for this as part of Initiative 2, boosting tourism sector. Even with the SSLR Phase 2 in place, the rural villages will still need to be connected to each other. I am requesting that the government provide this last mile connectivity, so to speak. Mr. Speaker, the Ministry of Tourism, Creative Industry and Performing Arts would be very welcome in my area to organize workshops and training sessions on things such as setting up and operating homesteads, putting together interesting tourism packages for visitors, cultural events, and digital marketing initiative to promote our beautiful highland. On enhancing governance and integrity. Mr. Speaker, finally, I wish to commend the government on its focus on the commitment to enhance good governance and integrity within civil service. The state of a country is often reflected in the state of its administration. And I am reminded at this juncture of the 9 cardinal principles set out in the preamble of the 1941 Constitution of Sarawak, the 6th of which states, and I quote, that public servants shall ever remember that they are but the servants of the people, on whose goodwill and cooperation they are entirely dependent, unquote. Indeed, this principle applies to all of us in this august house, who are here to serve the wonderfully diverse and peace-loving people of our beautiful Sarawak. In closing, I wish all our Sarawakian Indian happy Diwali and Christian a blessed Christmas. To all, a happy New Year. May God bless Sarawak and all people, and let justice and righteousness flow like the mighty Rajang River from this august house and flood our beloved fair land Sarawak. Much obliged for indulgence.
Thank you, Yang Berhormat. Yang Berhormat Batu Kitang, please.
Thank you very much, Dato Speaker. I express my gratitude for the opportunity to debate the address delivered by Yang Amat Berhormat, the Premier of Sarawak, at his first meeting of the 3rd session of the 19th Sarawak State Legislative Assembly. I extend my support and congratulations to Yang Amat Berhormat, Premier of Sarawak, for his articulate budget speech and for successfully presenting a healthy and an expansionary budget of 15.8 billion for the year 2025. The revenue collection projection for this year, 2024, of almost 14 billion ringgit is set to mark a significant milestone in Sarawak's history. That translates to a surplus budget for the year 2024 running. I laud our YAB Premier for presenting another surplus budget for the year 2025, notably 10.9 billion ringgit out of 15.8 billion ringgit, which is almost 70% of this budget, is allocated for development, in stark contrast to Semenanjung, Malaysia, where only 20% is directed towards development, with 80% allocated for operating expenditures. Please be informed, my honorable member for Padungan. Today, while Malaysia's debts has risen to 1.3 trillion ringgit, Sarawak's reserve has reached 40 billion ringgit, up from 31 billion ringgit. Please be informed, member for Padungan. Tan Sri Dato' Ahmad Speaker, Dato' Speaker, I would like to congratulate Sarawak on our remarkable achievements in SUKMA. The dedication and hard work of our athletes, the organizers and the ministers responsible for the SUKMA and Para-SUKMA competitions were truly commendable. Under the leadership of our Minister of Youth, Sports and Entrepreneur Development, member for N15 Asajaya and his capable team, including SUKMA 21 Chief Executive Officer, our Deputy SS1, Sarawak has demonstrated exceptional organizational prowess, not just in the organizing of SUKMA 21, but also in the equally successful Rainforest World Music Festival. Member for Adun N36 Laya also deserves recognition for his role as Chief Demission of SUKMA 21, guiding the Sarawak contingent to an overall victory with a remarkable medal tally. Congratulations also go to our Menteri Pembangunan Wanita, Kanak-kanak dan Kesejahteraan Community member for N56 Dalat, member for N56 Dalat, for continuing in building this momentum towards the 2027 SEA Games. Agi hidup, agi ngelaban. Dato' Speaker, I would also like to congratulate our YAB Premier and the GPS government for advancing Sarawak's interests as a majority shareholder in Afin Bank and Bintulu Port, acquiring a 15% stake in LNG by purchasing Shell's shares and obtaining a 20% stake in Bakun from Tenaga Nasional. Furthermore, Sarawak's own oil company, Petros, has now become the third largest oil company in Malaysia. We must encourage our 2.3 million Sarawakians to support GPS and grant our YAB Premier and our Deputy Minister in the Premier of Sarawak's Department, member for N7 Semariang, and the party the mandate to uphold our rights over our territorial waters. Dato' Speaker, we are grateful to our YAB Premier for the ART system and look forward to its commissioning in Sarawak. Currently, Grab is the most convenient form of transport for tourists, but its cost makes it unaffordable for locals as a daily transport. We appreciate the federal government's provision of 56 pink buses under the SBST program starting 2025. However, there are many small feeder roads in Sarawak which are inaccessible to large buses. I suggest Sarawak to establish our very own ride-hailing company, e-hailing company, a fleet of commercial vehicles servicing residential areas, ART stations, hospitals, and major malls. Fares can be subsidized to ensure affordability and reduce private vehicle use. Buses could also offer real-time tracking through an app similar to Grab, in inverted commas, improving efficiency and user-friendliness. Besides providing local jobs and attracting tourists and investors, our fleet of clean, air-conditioned Sarawak buses and commercial vehicles could be decorated with Sarawakian motifs to highlight our local culture. I would also like to take this opportunity to address our Transport Minister regarding the need for an even more ambitious transport plan for Sarawak. Specifically, I urge our Honourable Minister to expedite the establishment of a railway system in our state. This will go further to enhance the transport system throughout Sarawak, which happens to be the largest state in Malaysia in terms of land mass. Billions and billions of ringgit has gone into building the transport system in Malaya in the last 50 years, using mainly profits from the oil and gas sourced from the Borneo states. It is therefore right and just that the federal government return a portion of these profits to develop a rail transport system in the Borneo states. This will most certainly uplift the standard of living in the two Borneo states to be on par with their West Malaysian counterparts. Dr. Speaker, I salute the Sarawak Education Ministry for its forward-thinking initiatives. While Malaya debates language policies and reintroducing exams, Sarawak is confidently implementing a dual language policy, teaching science and mathematics in English, and forging ahead with carrying out standardized assessments for primary 6 pupils by 2025 and Form 3 students by 2028. Sarawak's strong support for vernacular schools contrasts with calls for their closure in Malaya. The state government is 7 times, the Sarawak GPS government is 7 times more generous in funding Chinese schools than the federal government, and is the only state in Malaysia to recognize the UEC. Our YAB Premier has assured that UEC graduates can enter all 5 Sarawak-owned universities. I strongly urge our Chinese population to support our YAB Premier and GPS wholeheartedly. While West Malaysia remains focused on race-based policies, Sarawak stands apart by nurturing talents irrespective of creed or race, fostering a more inclusive and forward-thinking educational environment. Sarawak also offers free tertiary education for selected courses and provides top SPM students with a chance to study medicine at UNIMAS. I thank our YAB Premier for establishing the Sovereign Wealth Fund, aiming to improve education and future opportunities for anak Sarawak. Again, I wish to appeal to our Chinese population to support our YAB Premier and GPS wholeheartedly. Additionally, I commend the GPS government's initiative to allocate 15 million ringgit annually to provide free tuition for Form 3 and Form 5 students particularly in rural areas. This move ensures that even the most underserved communities have a fair chance to access quality education and gain admission to higher learning institutions. Securing more autonomy in education will ensure our children thrive in a nurturing learning environment. Let us continue to champion the interests of our students and ensure that Sarawak's education system remains robust and progressive. Dr. Speaker, stability in our state government is vital for progress. GPS has consistently delivered on its promises, in stark contrast to the empty rhetoric often emanating from Malayan parties, including DAP. I would like to commend our YAB Premier and our esteemed leaders for their principled and clear-minded leadership. It is essential that we continue to encourage our leaders to forge ahead with a vision that prioritizes the interests of Sarawak and its people. At the same time, we must remain vigilant against the influence of political parties from Malaya. The absence of UMNO in Sarawak has contributed to our unity and harmony, in contrast to Sabah, our neighboring Sabah. And we must continue to express our firm stance against the presence of Malayan political parties in Sarawak. They represent unwelcome influences from the peninsula, often prioritizing federal interests over Sarawak's interests. The introduction of Malayan parties into our state will dilute our representation and will further reduce our present 25% allocation of parliamentary seats, thereby undermining our constitutional rights. Historically, the founding fathers of Malaysia ensured that 65% of parliamentary seats would be in Malaya, with the remainder allocated to Borneo states to safeguard our rights and interests. Right now, Malaya holds 75% of all the seats, while Sabah and Sarawak combined hold only 25%. Malaya currently holds over 40 parliamentary seats occupied by the DAP. It is crucial not to further diminish Sarawak's representation by supporting DAP candidates when there are already ample seats dedicated to Malaya. Sarawak and Sabah must hold at least 35% of the Dewan Rakyat seats. We don't want Malaya parties to contest in Sarawak and Sabah. Don't come here and take our seats. You already have enough. We don't have enough parliamentary seats as it is. So Malayan parties, including the DAP, should not come to Sabah and Sarawak to take our seats. I would like to reiterate our strong support for the proposal to reserve 35% of parliamentary seats for Sarawak and Sabah, in accordance to the Malaysian Agreement 1963. Currently, Sarawak and Sabah hold only 56 seats, or less than 1/3 of the total 222 parliamentary seats. We need at least 74 seats or more to veto any constitutional rights that may be detrimental to Sarawak. The federal government must respect the position of Sabah and Sarawak as equal partners in the formation of Malaysia and not as states of the Malaya Federation. Therefore, the seats belonging to Singapore should be returned to Sarawak and Sabah. Recent discussions in the State Legislative Assembly have shown that no concrete decision has been made in increasing representation, despite talks in 2022 and 2023. The Deputy Prime Minister suggests that it may take 2 to 3 years to resolve, but progress has been excruciatingly slow. Action is needed, not just promises, and this is urgent. A concerning proposal from some Malayan NGOs suggests increasing Senate seats for Sabah and Sarawak instead of parliamentary seats. This cannot be accepted as it does not provide the veto power needed to protect our interests. We all know that the key decisions are made in the lower house, not the Senate. We must firmly reject this proposal. Dr. Speaker, it is time to prioritize the bonalization of our civil service as per the wishes of our forefathers who signed MA 63. We should be recruiting local teachers, doctors, police personnel, and filling key positions with Sarawakians. I commend the Minister of Education for focusing on recruiting Sarawakian teachers, reducing reliance on federal provisions. Sending teachers from Semenanjung has led to issues like high absenteeism and unfamiliarity with subjects, especially in STEM. Sarawakian teachers are better connected to local communities and thrive in familiar environments. West Malaysian teachers are reluctant to transfer to Sarawak, and many of them, like many Sarawakians, face the difficult choice of leaving aging parents or caring for sick family members. I strongly advocate for removing the current quota system that limits Sarawakian teachers and doctors from working in our own state. Sarawakian doctors should be prioritized to practice in our own public hospitals, and it should be compulsory for West Malaysian doctors to serve here. Local talent who understand our context should be given the opportunity. This principle should also apply to the police force, where top-ranking positions here often go to officers from Malaya, limiting opportunities for capable Sarawakians. Many excel locally, but are reassigned to roles in Malaya, perpetuating division and undermining our representation. Empowering Sarawakians in these roles will strengthen our institutions and ensure that our state's interests are truly represented, as envisioned in the drafting of MA 63. Dr. Speaker, recently there appear to be a number of coffee shops in the towns which may have been used for illegal gambling and online activities. This has led to an escalation of small-scale thieving and reports of robberies. One contributing factor appears to be the limited police patrol and personnel presence, with limited patrol vehicles available in the Patawan area. There is also very limited CCTV coverage, and I would like to express my appreciation to YAB Premier for the initiation of our security officers and Coast Guard under Unit Keselamatan dan Penguatkuasaan Sarawak. If I may, I would like to suggest that further strengthening of these forces could be considered, possibly in collaboration with federal officers. This collaborative effort could effectively address and mitigate illegal activities and increase security in our area.
Closing, please.
Thank you, Dr. Speaker. I wish to thank my fellow members for remaining committed to our objectives and to support initiatives that benefit Sarawak and our people. Together, we can ensure that our rights and interests are upheld for generations to come, and together we will endeavor to build a Sarawak that our children and grandchildren would like to see. Together, we will leave them a better Sarawak than when we found it. Dr. Speaker, I wish to express my full support for the Budget Bill 2024 delivered by our Honourable YAB Premier of Sarawak, Member for N26 Kedong. Finally, I would like to wish our Christian community Selamat Menyambut Hari Christmas and a Happy New Year to all Sarawakians. Thank you once again, Dato' Speaker.
Thank you, Yang Berhormat Batu Kitang. It seems if there is no Yang Berhormat wish to speak after this, will be knocking off early. All right? So in that case, ahli-ahli yang berhormat, the sitting is now adjourned and the House shall resume its sitting at 9 a.m. tomorrow.